What happens when one of Hollywood's toughest, most intense actors completely loses control on live television? Well, you're about to witness it, because Tom Hardy just had a jaw-dropping meltdown on The View that left the entire studio frozen in shock. This wasn't a simple slip-up or awkward pause. It was a full-blown eruption that had security rushing in and producers scrambling to cut to commercial. Before we dive into this unbelievable moment, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment sharing what you think could have triggered Hardy's explosive outburst. Trust me, the reason behind this is something you won't see coming. It all began as an ordinary, routine promotional appearance. Tom Hardy was scheduled for a standard 10-minute segment on The View to talk about his latest film. Just another stop on the Hollywood publicity circuit that countless actors navigate dozens of times in their careers. On the surface, everything looked normal. The production crew moved through their usual pre-show checklist. Hosts reviewed their notes, and everyone assumed this would be just another pleasant celebrity chat. Joy Behar, known for her sharp wit and probing questions, had prepared thoroughly. She had thoughtful inquiries lined up about Hardy's acting process, his upcoming roles, and his take on the current state of the film industry. But what she and the entire crew weren't prepared for was the version of Tom Hardy who walked onto that set that morning. From the moment Hardy entered the studio, something felt off. Makeup artists and production assistants, veterans who had worked with hundreds of celebrities, later described a strange tension radiating from him. He skipped the usual small talk with crew members and gave curt, almost dismissive answers to basic questions about comfort and preparation. Then, the cameras rolled. "Tom, welcome to The View," Joy said with her signature warm smile. "We're thrilled to have you here today to talk about your new film." And that's when it happened. Hardy's response was sharp, immediate, and startling. "Are we really going to pretend this is about the film, Joy? Because I've seen your show, and I know exactly what this is about." The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. From the very first words, Hardy had set a confrontational tone. But Behar, ever professional, attempted to steer the conversation back on track. "Well, of course, we want to hear about your new project," she replied. "But our viewers are always interested in the person behind the performances. That's what makes for engaging television." "Engaging television?" Hardy echoed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Is that what you call ambushing guests with personal questions they never agreed to answer? Digging into their private lives for ratings?" Behar's expression shifted, but she maintained her composure. "Tom, I'm not sure what you're referring to. We haven't asked any personal questions yet. We literally just welcomed you to the show." But Hardy wasn't backing down. He leaned forward, intensity flashing in his eyes, making the studio audience visibly tense. "Don't play dumb with me. I know you've been digging into my personal life, my relationships, my family. That's not why I'm here, and I won't sit here and be your entertainment." The studio's energy changed instantly. Camera operators adjusted, sensing that the interview was careening off script. The other hosts, including Whoopi Goldberg, looked uncertain, unsure whether to intervene or let Behar handle the storm. "Tom, I genuinely don't know what research you're talking about," Behar said, her voice steady despite the mounting tension. "Our producers sent your publicist a standard list of topics. Nothing unusual, nothing invasive, just the kind of conversation we have with all our guests." Hardy's laugh cut through the tension, harsh, bitter, and unsettling. "Standard topics, right? Tell me, Joy, what's standard about asking an actor about his rehab from 15 years ago?" And just like that, what was supposed to be a routine interview spiraled into one of the most shocking on-air confrontations Hollywood has seen in years. What's standard about bringing up custody battles that were sealed by the court? Hardy demanded, his voice slicing through the studio air like a blade. Behar looked genuinely taken aback. She shot a quick glance toward the producers off camera before replying. Tom, those topics aren't on our list. I don't know where you're getting this information, but we never intended to discuss anything like that. Liar! Hardy shot back, his tone flat and sharp. You people are all the same. You smile, you pretend to be supportive, but all you want is dirt. All you want is drama. Well, congratulations, Joy. You're getting your drama today. The mood in the studio had shifted entirely. What was supposed to be a standard morning show appearance had become something completely unrecognizable. The audience, initially buzzing with excitement to see a Hollywood star, now sat frozen in uncomfortable silence, watching what felt like a meltdown in real time. Behar inhaled deeply, clearly attempting to salvage the situation. Tom, I think there might be a misunderstanding here. Let's take a step back. Why don't we talk about what you actually came here to discuss? Tell us about your new film, your character, what drew you to this project. But Hardy wasn't interested in stepping back. If anything, her attempt to redirect seemed to fuel his fury even more. Miscommunication, he snapped, leaning forward. That's rich, coming from someone whose entire career has been built on miscommunications that always make their guests look bad. That's not fair, Tom, Behar replied, her own composure beginning to crack. I've been doing this for decades, and I've always treated my guests with respect. I don't know what's gotten into you today, but this hostility is completely uncalled for. Hardy suddenly stood, jolting everyone in the studio. Uncalled for? He spat, voice rising. You want to know what's uncalled for? Inviting someone onto your show under false pretenses? Lying about your intentions? Using people's vulnerabilities for cheap television? Sit down, Tom, Behar said firmly, her patience wearing thin. You're making a scene over absolutely nothing. We invited you here in good faith to promote your work, and you're turning it into some kind of conspiracy theory. Good faith? Hardy's voice boomed across the studio. There's nothing good about what you do here, Joy. You tear people down for entertainment. You exploit personal struggles for ratings. You're everything that's wrong with this industry, and I'm sick of pretending otherwise. The other hosts were visibly struggling, unsure whether to step in. What had started as a routine interview had escalated into something none of them had ever experienced. The audience sat completely silent, caught between shock and morbid fascination. Then Behar's professional composure finally cracked. Her frustration became unmistakable. You know what, Tom? I've had enough of this. You came on my show, you're acting like a complete lunatic, and you're accusing me of things I never did. Either sit down and have a normal conversation, or get off my set. The studio held its breath. Everyone knew that Hardy's next move would dictate the direction of this confrontation. His eyes flickered dangerously, and instead of retreating, he stepped closer to the table. In the small studio space, his presence suddenly felt much more imposing. Get off your set, Hardy said, low and menacing. This isn't your set, Joy. This is a platform you were given, and you've abused it for years. Someone has to call you out, and apparently, that someone is me. Finally, Whoopi Goldberg stepped in, her voice cutting through the tension like a lifeline. Tom, I think we all need to take a breath here. Whatever issues you think you have with Joy, Goldberg interjected, her voice steady but firm, this isn't the way to handle them. You're on live television. There are people in the audience, and you're being incredibly disrespectful. Hardy turned his glare toward Goldberg, his expression hardening, eyes flashing with contempt. Disrespectful? He shot back. You want to talk about disrespect, Whoopi? How about the disrespect you show your guests every single day? How about the way you gang up on people who don't share your opinions? How about the way you use this platform to push your agenda while pretending to be objective? Goldberg held her ground. We have guests from all walks of life on this show. We treat everyone fairly. We certainly don't deserve to be attacked by someone clearly having a breakdown. The word breakdown seemed to ignite something deeper in Hardy. His face twisted with rage, and he slammed his hand down on the interview table with such force that coffee mugs and water glasses jumped, spilling across the surface. "Breakdown!" he roared. "You think this is a breakdown? This is me finally speaking the truth about what you people really are. Parasites feeding off other people's pain and calling it entertainment." Bihar, having recovered from her initial shock, rose to meet Hardy's intensity head-on. "You know what, Tom? I've interviewed thousands of people over my career, and I've never encountered someone as rude, as unprofessional, and as completely unhinged as you are right now. Whatever personal demons you're dealing with, don't bring them onto my show." "Personal demons?" Hardy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My personal demons are my business, Joy. But your professional demons? That's everyone's business. The way you twist people's words, take things out of context, destroy reputations for sport." Another host, Sarah Haynes, cautiously tried to calm the storm. "Tom, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we could start over. Approach this conversation differently." Hardy whipped around to face her, movements sharp and aggressive. "Start over?" he spat. "There's no starting over, Sarah. This is who I really am. And this is who all of you really are. The masks are off now, and the only mask off is yours," Bihar countered immediately. "And what's underneath is pretty ugly. You're showing your true colors, and they're not very attractive." "At least I have true colors," Hardy snapped. "At least I'm not hiding behind some fake television persona, pretending to care while actually exploiting people." The audience shifted in their seats. Some glanced toward the exits. Others pulled out phones, capturing what they realized was something unprecedented in daytime television. Behar rose from her chair, standing toe-to-toe with Hardy. "You want to talk about exploitation, Tom? What about the way you're exploiting this platform right now? Using our show for your public meltdown? You think this is some grand statement, but all you're doing is embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself?" Hardy's voice escalated, booming across the studio. "The only embarrassment here is that you people have been getting away with your behavior for years. Someone should have called you out a long time ago." "Called us out for what exactly?" Goldberg interrupted. "For doing our jobs? Asking questions? Having conversations with our guests? What's your problem with what we do?" Hardy's response was swift and merciless. "My problem is that you think you're journalists, but you're not. You're gossips. Tabloid hosts masquerading as legitimate television personalities. You destroy lives and call it news." The accusation landed hard, and Bihar's reaction was immediate and fiery. "That is absolutely not true, and you know it." "We've done important interviews," Bihar said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We've covered serious topics. We've given a platform to people who needed to be heard. Just because you're having some kind of crisis doesn't give you the right to attack our integrity." "Integrity?" Hardy practically spat the word. "You wouldn't know integrity if it hit you in the face. You've built your career on controversy, on stirring drama, on making people uncomfortable. Well, congratulations, Joy, because today You've finally met someone who isn't going to play your game. The studio was on edge. Production assistants hovered near the cameras, awaiting instructions from the producers. Security moved closer, though no one seemed sure when or if they should intervene. Bahar's next words would ignite the final spark. "You know what, Tom? I've heard enough. You came onto our show acting like a complete maniac. You've insulted me and my colleagues and completely disrupted our program. I don't know what your problem is, but it's not our responsibility to deal with your issues." Hardy's face turned beet red. For a moment, it seemed he might become physically aggressive, but instead, he poured every ounce of rage into his voice, which now thundered louder than anyone had ever heard in that studio. "My issues?" he bellowed. "My issues are with people like you, people who hide behind their platforms to destroy others without consequences. Well, guess what, Joy? Today, there are consequences. Today, someone is finally fighting back." "Fighting back against what?" Bahar screamed in disbelief. "Against basic professional standards, against common courtesy, against normal human decency," Hardy shot back. "Because that's exactly what all of you are fighting against." The other hosts looked desperately toward the producers, silently pleading for someone to intervene before the confrontation spiraled further. The audience had gone completely silent, some covering their children's ears as the shouting match escalated. Hardy took another step toward the interview table, his towering frame casting a literal shadow over the seated hosts. "You want to know what I'm fighting against?" he hissed. "I'm fighting against the lies you tell yourselves every single day. The lie that you make the world better when all you do is make it worse." Goldberg tried one last time to restore order. "Tom, you need to calm down. This has gone way too far. You're acting in a way that's inappropriate for television, for our audience, and for basic human interaction." But Hardy had crossed the point of reason. His next words were deliberate, cold, and terrifying, an escalation nobody in the studio was prepared for. "Inappropriate for television? Whoopee!" he sneered. "Everything about this show is inappropriate. The way you ambush guests, manipulate conversations, profit from human misery. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine." "That's it," Bahar snapped, standing and pointing at him. "Security! Get him out of here! I'm done with this lunatic and his conspiracy theories. He's clearly having a mental health crisis, and we're not equipped to handle it." The mention of mental health seemed to push Hardy over the edge. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, somehow more threatening than all his previous shouting. "Mental health crisis?" he hissed. "You think this is a crisis, Joy? Let me tell you what a real crisis looks like." He began pacing the set with erratic energy, making everyone visibly nervous. "A real crisis," he continued, voice sharp as steel, "is when someone like you destroys a person's reputation with lies and half-truths. A real crisis is when families get torn apart because of the garbage spread on shows like this. A real crisis is when careers get ruined because hosts like you decide to play judge and jury." "Tom, you need to leave right now," Sarah Haynes said firmly, her voice trembling slightly. "You're scaring people. You're being completely unreasonable, and this has nothing to do with anything we've done." Hardy spun toward her with startling speed, his intensity reaching a peak that left everyone in the studio holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. "Nothing to do with what you've done, Sarah," Hardy snapped, spinning toward her. "You sit there every day, nodding along while Joy tears people apart. You're complicit in everything that happens on this show. You all are." Security personnel were now moving onto the set, but Hardy seemed oblivious, entirely consumed by his rage. He gesticulated wildly as he continued his relentless tirade. "You want to know what's really inappropriate?" he shouted, voice rising again. What's inappropriate is giving people like you a platform to spread poison every single day. What's inappropriate is calling yourselves journalists when you're nothing but gossip merchants. Bahar had clearly reached her limit. "Get him out of here! Now!" she barked to security. "I don't care what his problem is. I don't care what he thinks we've done wrong. I want him off my set immediately." But Hardy's demeanor shifted, becoming almost predatory. "Your set. Your set, Joy. This isn't your set. It's ABC's set. And last I checked, ABC answers to Disney, and Disney answers to shareholders. And shareholders don't like hosts who can't control their guests." The threat was thinly veiled, but unmistakable. Bahar's face went pale, genuinely unsettled for the first time since this confrontation began. "Are you threatening me?" she asked, her voice suddenly much quieter. Hardy's smile was cold and calculating. "I'm not threatening anyone, Joy. I'm just stating facts. Facts about how the television industry works. Facts about how quickly things can change. Facts about how careers can end." Goldberg finally stood, anger surfacing. "Okay, that's enough. You don't get to come on our show and threaten our jobs. You don't get to attack our integrity and then imply you're going to use your Hollywood connections to hurt us professionally." "Hollywood connections?" Hardy laughed, a harsh, unpleasant sound. "Whoopee, I don't need Hollywood connections to hurt you professionally. You're doing that all by yourselves every single day. I'm just pointing it out." Security was now right behind Hardy, though they hesitated, unsure how to act with such a high-profile guest. The tension in the studio was electric. Bahar found her voice again, fury matching Hardy's intensity. "You know what, Tom? You're right about one thing. This confrontation is going to end careers, but it's not going to end mine. When this footage hits the internet, when people see how you've behaved today, your reputation is going to be destroyed." "My reputation?" Hardy laughed, genuinely amused now. "Joy, my reputation is built on playing unstable characters. If anything, this is just method acting taken to its logical conclusion. But your reputation is built on being a professional television host, and professional television hosts don't lose control of their shows." The observation hit its mark. Bahar's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "I haven't lost control of anything. You're the one who came in here acting like a madman. You're the one who turned a simple interview into a circus." "A circus?" Hardy's eyes gleamed with delight. "Perfect, Joy. That's exactly what this show is. A circus. And you're the ringmaster, cracking your whip at the performers, making them dance for the crowd's entertainment." Sarah Haynes tried one final time to calm the situation. "Tom, whatever issues you have with daytime television, whatever problems you think exist in the industry, this isn't the way to address them. You're accomplishing nothing except making yourself look bad." Hardy turned to face her, an expression of mock sympathy on his face. "Sarah, I appreciate that you're trying to be the voice of reason here, but you're missing the point entirely. I'm not trying to accomplish anything except showing people what you really are when the cameras are rolling and someone doesn't play by your rules," Goldberg interjected, exasperated. "The cameras are always rolling, Tom. That's the whole point of live television. Everything you're doing right now is being broadcast to millions of people." "Exactly," Hardy replied, a sinister calm settling over him. "Exactly." Hardy's voice carried a dark satisfaction. Millions of people are seeing what happens when someone finally stands up to the bullies of daytime television. Millions of people are witnessing what you're really like when you can't control the narrative. Bahar's response was icy, measured, and devastating. What millions of people are witnessing, Tom, is a successful actor having a complete breakdown on live television. They're seeing someone destroy his own career for no apparent reason. They're watching a man embarrass himself, his family, and everyone associated with him. For a brief moment, something vulnerable flashed across Hardy's face, the mask of rage slipping. But it was gone almost immediately, replaced by his trademark intensity. "At least I have the courage to show who I really am, Joy," he snapped. "At least I'm not hiding behind some fake persona, pretending to be America's sweetheart, while actually being a vindictive, manipulative user." "That's it," Bahar said flatly, her tone final. "Security, remove him. I don't care if you have to drag him out. I want him gone." As the security team moved in to escort Hardy from the set, he turned one last time, delivering a chilling parting shot with theatrical flair. "This isn't over, Joy. This is just the beginning. You've made an enemy today, and I'm not the kind of enemy you want to have." The words hung in the air as he was led away, leaving the hosts, the studio audience, and millions of viewers at home stunned. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the echo of his footsteps as he disappeared toward the exit. Bahar sank back into her chair, visibly shaken, while the other hosts looked equally rattled, unsure how to continue the rest of the show after witnessing such an explosive confrontation. What began as a routine promotional interview had erupted into something entirely unexpected. A raw, unfiltered display of anger and hostility that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. Clips would circulate online, dissected by media experts, and discussed in Hollywood circles as a case study of what happens when the polished veneer of daytime television collapses completely. And that, astonishingly, is the story of how Tom Hardy lost control on The View, turning what should have been a simple promotional appearance into one of the most shocking live television moments in recent memory. The fallout was immediate and intense. Industry insiders called it one of the most unforgettable celebrity meltdowns ever captured on air. So, what do you think really triggered Hardy's explosive behavior? Was it just a bad day, or was something deeper at play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible, jaw-dropping stories from Hollywood's most shocking moments.